What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my next NBA draft scouting report. So I actually just did Timothy Luwawu not too long ago. So come back with another wing player, and that is DeAndre Bembry. So I'll give you guys a little bit of background information about DeAndre Bembry's stats and whatnot. So he is, scoot over a little bit, get a little better in the picture. So he is a 6'6", 210-pound junior out of St. Joe's, which is he's from Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's also got a 6'8" wingspan. So he plays small forward and shooting guard also. I don't know if I mentioned that. Like I said, he plays on the wing. So get into his strengths. For one, he is a very good athlete. He's a guy that plays above the rim. He's fast and pretty strong as well. So that creates a lot of opportunities for him to do things like back people down, be able to get good positions for rebounds that you really wouldn't expect from other people. And again, I'll elaborate more on that with his strengths and weaknesses. But talk about just some of his stats and whatnot. So he played heavy minutes while he was at St. Joe's these last 2 years, 38.6 minutes through the 2014-15 season, and then 37.3 minutes per game this past season. Rough season for him, three-point shooting. 27%. Field goal percentage did rise, which was good, 48%. And then free throw percentage around 66. About 7.8 rebounds per game, 4.5 assists, 17.4 points per game as well. So actually very similar stats to his sophomore year. So get into, like I said, some of his strengths. Like I mentioned, he's a very, very good athlete. Plays above the rim, good vertical, good quickness. Pretty much everything you can want out of a wing athlete. He's that type of player that even if he's shorter than a wing player that he's being defended by, if he is playing at the three, he wouldn't be the shortest small forward in the world, but definitely not the tallest. And again, I think he's got the athleticism, the vertical to get up to be able to get above a lot of the players defending him. So second strength is he's lethal and quick in transition. A lot of his points come off transition. He knows how to get to the rim. He's okay at drawing contact. He's been pretty consistent with that throughout his career, averaging right around 5 free throws per game every single game, which again, not a lot, not a little, for how much he had the ball in his hand. Pretty average amount. But like I said, he knows how to work his way through traffic, get through defenders, and get to the basket, which is a good quality you'd want in a wing player, especially if it's a team that runs fast and likes to push the pace. So third strength is he's a good mid-range shooter, and he's also a decent post scorer. Like I said, he can get to the rim. That's including while he has the ball, just in a settled offense. And also he's a pretty good mid-range shooter that decreases when he gets out to the three-point line. Again, I'll mention a little bit more of that later, but 48% field goal percentage, most of that coming down low, so good average there. Last strength is he's a smart player, and this mainly comes with things like his on-court vision, off-ball awareness, and overall ability to see the ball on defense. Now, his defensive effort's not that consistent, but his motor on offense always seems like it's there. Averaging 4.5, almost 5 assists per game to only 2 turnovers. For a guy that had the ball in his hand that much, that's a pretty desirable average. He did get his turnover numbers down from his sophomore year, and by minutes per game, it went down from his freshman to his sophomore year, even though the total number of turnovers did go up. So what I think is a bigger key for Bembry than anything else with his playmaking ability, lethalness, and transition, or lethality, I guess that'd be the word to use there. And then also, like I said, his ability to find other players on the drive. That's one of his best qualities, is being able to draw defenders, find the open man, and get the pass to him. And that's an extremely good quality in the NBA nowadays, obviously, with how much the floor is spread now. Players like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, just pretty much setting the Warriors' example of spreading the floor, being able to shoot from long range, from long distance, and just with three-pointers becoming a bigger part of the game now. Having the ability to be a good athlete, get to the rim, and still kick it out, draw contact, is something that you hope translates extremely well to the NBA for Bembry. So get into some of his weaknesses. First one is three-point shooting and free throw shooting. So I mentioned his rough three-point percentage. Now, another discouraging sign is the fact that it actually went down every year in college. His three-point percentage went from 35% his freshman year to around 32, 33% his sophomore year to about 26 or 27% his junior year. Again, hope that improves with the increased line. It's probably going to be somewhere that he doesn't spend a whole lot of time. He's going to, if anything, I think it'll actually help defenders draw in a little bit, be able to force him to his lesser side on the drive, which it's obviously going to take away one part of his game. So that could hurt him in the NBA. Again, something you hope improves. Now, if anything's looking up for his free throw shooting, it's the fact that he did actually improve that every year. 58% his freshman year, all the way up to 66% his junior year. So it's improving, but again, for a guy that takes 13, 14 field goals per game and is known to be a good mid-range scorer, you'd hope to see that more around at least 75%. Again, he didn't get to the line that much, but with his style of play, he's got potential to get to the line a lot in the NBA, and again, you'd hope to see that improved. So, second weakness is showing consistent effort on defense. Again, his effort, it wavers. His awareness also does as well on defense. And being a guy that spent 3 years in college, it should be something that's there, a little bit more consistency. Most players that are go-to guys on their team, decent size wing players that spend that much time on the floor. Now, one thing you got to take into account is the fact that this guy was playing pretty much the entire game, every game. He logged over 1,300 minutes his junior year, playing 37.3 minutes per game. And his sophomore year, even though he did miss some time to injury, 38.6 minutes per game. So that's obviously heavy minutes. That's way above an average, even for a star player. You'd expect to see around 32 to 34, even for heavy minutes for a star player. But again, he was on a St. Joe's team that wasn't really that loaded. So that might be one reason with limited minutes in the NBA and reason to prove himself, which he didn't really have to do much at St. Joe's, is something that might actually help him a little bit and could actually just pretty much wipe that weakness out. I think that's one that'll translate to the NBA okay. So last weakness is, can he hang at the NBA level? This is one guy, he's been described in a lot of scouting reports, and just if you watch him, you can notice it. He's kind of good at everything, but not really great at anything. So you look at his stats, and across the board, they're impressive. 17.4 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. It's not really lacking in any department, but he's not elite in any department either. The almost 8 rebounds per game is impressive, especially for his position and his height. He especially gets after the ball well on the offensive side of the floor. He can hit the offensive glass hard. Now, again, three-point shooting's not like elite by any sense of the word. I'd say if anything's elite, it's his turnaround game and his ability to drive and play above the rim on offense, especially for his size. But again, these are a lot of things that are going to be obviously the bar's going to be raised at the NBA level. Having things like a 27% field goal or three-point percentage when he is known as a shooter is going to hurt, because it's going to take away one dimension of your games. Defenders are going to play off you a little bit on the three-point line, and unless he improves that might take his driving ability and ability to work inside off a little bit, because defenders know that that's probably where he's going. Again, in college, he wasn't playing against the best competition. You're talking about a St. Joseph's team that actually did make it to the second round of the NBA tournament this year, actually round of 32. I don't know if that technically counts as second or third. And they did actually compete with Oregon pretty good. They lost by 5. But again, you're talking about a team that was playing against subpar competition. Really the best teams they saw all year were, I believe, like Dayton, Villanova, and I think Villanova was out of conference. So that might have helped. Playing in the Atlantic 10, it's, again, not a great conference. VCU, St. Bonnie's, Dayton, George Washington, those type of teams. Of course, great players come out of the conference in the past. Davidson is in that conference, so Steph Curry. But I'm not comparing those two. So that pretty much does it for the strengths and weaknesses. Honestly, a pretty slim list. He's pretty straightforward. When you watch his game, you understand these. Again, if I could sum it up in Just one sentence, I would say good at almost everything and not great at anything, which is hard to translate to an NBA level, which also makes his scouting a little bit difficult. But talk about, where I think he projects in the NBA, best fits, systems, schemes, stat projections, where I think he's going to go in the draft. So NBADraft.net last mock draft had him going number 33 in the second round, third overall in the second round to the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, Bembry's the type of guy, again, he probably will fit into multiple schemes. He's an athlete, he can adapt. I personally think he's going to fall late first, early second. That's probably almost guaranteed where he's going to go unless some team falls in love with him and picks him a little bit earlier. But there are a few players similar to him in this draft. It's not a very deep class with his position, but you're talking about a couple other guys like Taurean Prince, like Timothy Luwawu, a guy I just talked about, like Furkan Korkmaz, Denzel Valentine. Again, similar guys that can play the 2 or the 3 spot. Again, not all of them have similar characteristics. You even get into the second round, you can talk about Jerron Blossom game, Daniel House, guys like that. But I do think that he will fit in well to almost any scheme. A few fits that I like especially. One is with the Toronto Raptors. I mentioned that before, but it is intriguing to me having a guy like DeAndre Bembry that could fit in at the 3 and play with DeRozan and Lowry if they both stay. And, with that drive and dish ability to one of the best backcourts in the league would be, it'd be pretty fun to watch. And then another one that I like is also with the Charlotte Hornets. If Nick Batum leaves, I think he can play very well with an up-tempo type offense again. Having outside shooters like Courtney Lee, Jeremy Lin when he's on, and Kemba Walker, bring a little bit more of an athletic side to that team would help them out tremendously with being able to space the floor and shoot. Now, talk about what I think his projections are going to be, what his first few years in the league are going to be like. Now, Bembry is the type of guy that just could explode out of nowhere. I'm assuming most of you guys know who he is at this point. I wouldn't say came out of nowhere, but definitely saw his draft stock rise this year at the tournament. That was really his biggest exposure so far. And I think that if he ends up in the right situation, he could end up starting this year. But you're talking about a guy that's probably going to be the 7th or 8th guy in a rotation this year. He needs to be able to see less minutes. Obviously, I think that he's going to need to get used to the NBA level of competition and see where he can go from there. The 3-point shooting also needs to be improved. Like I said, I think he'll work best in a scheme where he can be with 3-point shooters, good perimeter players, and maybe a good defensive rotation just so he doesn't have to expel all his effort on that end of the floor, but also see a little bit more consistent effort from him on that end of the floor as well. When you're talking about averages, I think you're looking at about probably 6 to 8 points per game, maybe 4 rebounds. Again, it depends on whether he starts or whether he's on the bench, but that's probably what you're looking at for his rookie year. Again, not a guy that will probably start day one. He has the ability to, like I said, even if he doesn't have the desired size coming in, if he does slip in at the 3, he does have the desired size for a 2. More than that, 6'6" is decent size to even play out the 3. 6'8" wingspan is by no means an elite measurable, but it's enough. And like I said, with his leaping ability, I think he makes up for any problems there. But that pretty much does it for this video. Again, Bembry is a very entertaining player for me to watch. Also one it's pretty fun to talk about. But tomorrow we'll be coming back with, I believe it is Deontay Davis. It's either Deontay Davis or Marquise Chris. I'd have to look. But anyway, if you did not see Timothy Luwawu, you want to go check that one out. I'll put the link in the outro. The link to the entire playlist, as always, will be in the description below as well. So that's pretty much it. See ya. Anything. Got a lot of scouting reports. You've probably seen this name pop up a few times, or you might know a little bit more about him than just the name. So get into some of his background information. So he's a 6'7", 210-pound wing player, shooting guard, small forward, 7'2" wingspan, out of France. He's from Caen.